An
For bus
11-year-old
fare home,
homeless boy
mister.
stood on a frozen
Everyone deserves to
Oklahoma
get home
highway
safe.
and handed a stranded biker his last dollar. For bus fare home, mister. Everyone deserves to get home safe. Gideon Reaper Vance hadn't cried in 37 years. Not since the night he made a choice that killed his brother. That crumpled dollar just broke something open in him. And what he did next? 203 Hell's Angels would follow. If you believe one small act can change everything, subscribe to Gentle Biker Official and tell me what city you're watching from. Because what happened in the next 4 hours would leave an entire town in tears. Now, back to that highway. For bus fare home, mister. Everyone deserves to get home safe. Sunday, November 23rd, 2019. 6:47 p.m. Highway 60 West, Oklahoma. The wind cut across the dead cornfields with the kind of cold that finds every gap in your clothing. 34 degrees, but the gusts dropping it to 27. Gideon Reaper Vance stood beside his broken-down 2011 Harley-Davidson Road King, leather vest pulled tight, and watched the sun sink toward the horizon in a sky going deep purple-black. Oil leak, cracked gasket, bad timing. And now he was stranded 2.3 miles north of Calhoun city limits, with zero cell service and a fuel gauge reading empty because the leak had been worse than he thought. 7 cars had passed in the last 19 minutes. 7 drivers who'd seen a solo Hell's Angel with his thumb out and decided their Sunday evening didn't need that particular complication. He didn't blame them. 6'3", full patch, salt and pepper beard, standing alone on an empty Oklahoma highway. It wasn't exactly the image that screamed, safe to help. He checked his watch. 6:47 p.m. The club meeting in Oklahoma City started at 9. He'd left Wichita at 2, expecting a smooth 5-hour ride. Now he'd be lucky to make it by midnight. That's when he saw the figure. Small. Moving north. Walking with an uneven gait so pronounced it hurt to watch from 100 yards away. A child. Alone. On an empty highway, where the next house was miles in either direction, and darkness was coming fast. Reaper's first thought, where the hell are this kid's parents? His second thought, as the figure got closer and the limp became unmistakable. Something's very wrong here. The boy couldn't have been more than 11, maybe 12, 4'6" at most, maybe 65 pounds. He wore a gray hoodie 3 sizes too large, with the cuffs pulled over his hands, hem dragging to his knees. Jeans with knees worn completely through, safety pinned at the waist. Sneakers held together with electrical tape at both toes. No socks, skin visible through holes at the heel. But it was the walk that made Reaper's chest tighten. Shuffle, scrape. Shuffle, scrape. The kid favored his left ankle, dragging it slightly every 3rd step, his whole body compensating. The rhythm of someone who'd been walking hurt for so long they'd stopped thinking about it. The boy stopped 12 feet away, shoulders hunched forward like he was trying to make himself smaller, both hands clutching something inside his hoodie pocket. "Excuse me, sir?" His voice was hoarse, quiet, but surprisingly clear, a child who chose words carefully. "Are you okay?" Reaper blinked. Most kids saw a Hell's Angel and crossed the street. This one was asking if he was okay. "I'm all right, son. Bike broke down. Waiting for help." The boy's eyes, hazel, intelligent but exhausted, flicked to the motorcycle, then to the Hell's Angels patches covering Reaper's vest, then back to Reaper's face. "You're Hell's Angels?" Reaper's shoulders tensed. Slightly. Kid knew the name. That could mean a lot of things in rural Oklahoma. "Yeah," he said carefully. "You know about us?" The kid's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or hope. "My mama said—" He stopped, corrected himself. "My mama used to say that bikers help people who can't help themselves. Is that true?" Used to say. Past tense. This kid's mother was dead or gone, and here he was, standing on a freezing highway, asking if the stories were real. "Yeah," Reaper said quietly. "That's true." The boy nodded once, like Reaper had just confirmed something important. Then his right hand emerged from his hoodie pocket holding a single crumpled dollar bill, and he extended it forward. "There's a gas station 4 miles south. This should get you a gallon, maybe enough to make it to town." He paused. "It's all I have." Reaper froze. This kid, thin enough that his hollow cheeks showed bone, wearing shoes held together with tape, shivering in 34-degree wind without a coat, was offering him money. $1. All he had. Because his mama said bikers help people. Reaper crouched slowly, bringing himself down to the kid's eye level. Up close, he could see more. The dark circles under his eyes so pronounced they looked like bruises. The way his hands trembled, not from cold, from something deeper. The chapped lips cracked and bleeding at the corners. "Son," Reaper said, voice rougher than he meant it to be, "I can't take your money. You need that more than I do." The boy's jaw set in a way that reminded Reaper of someone, though he couldn't place who. "My mama taught me, you do right by people, and the right people find you." His voice didn't waver. "You're stranded. I'm doing right. Please take it." And that's when something in Reaper's chest cracked wide open. Because 37 years ago, he'd been 10 years old, standing on a different frozen street with his 7-year-old brother, Marcus. They'd had $1 between them. Marcus had pneumonia. They hadn't eaten in 2 days. Young Gideon had to choose, buy bus fare to the hospital or buy food and walk. He'd chosen food. Marcus had collapsed that night before they reached the hospital, died before the ambulance arrived. Reaper had carried that choice for 37 years. The weight of a decision a 10-year-old shouldn't have had to make, the guilt that no amount of time could fully erase. And here was this boy, making the opposite choice, giving away his last dollar to help a stranger get home safe. Reaper's throat went tight. He looked down at the dollar bill, then back at the kid's face. "What's your name?" "Levi. Levi Cartwright." "Levi, I'm Reaper, and I need you to tell me something." He kept his voice gentle. "Why does a boy with $1 give it away to a stranger?" Levi's composure cracked for exactly 1 second. His eyes got wet. He looked down at his taped-together shoes. "Because my sister June is really sick, and I need to get her medicine, but the clinic closes in." He checked a watch that wasn't on his wrist, just habit. "Maybe 10 minutes now. And I won't make it in time, so if I can't help her right now, at least I can help someone. Mama said that matters." The words landed like stones. This child had been walking to an urgent care clinic, 4 miles on a twisted ankle in freezing weather, trying to get help for a sick sister. And when he ran out of time, instead of keeping his last dollar for the next attempt, he gave it to a stranded biker. Because that's what his mother taught him. Reaper stood slowly, pulled off his work gloves, and reached into his vest pocket. He took out his phone. No service, but the photo gallery still worked. He scrolled to a picture he'd carried for 37 years. A faded Polaroid of two boys, one 10, one 7, arms around each other, smiling. He turned the phone so Levi could see. "That's me," Reaper said, pointing to the older boy. "And that's my little brother Marcus. He was 7. He got pneumonia when we were homeless. I had $1. I chose wrong. He died." Levi's eyes went wide. "You just made the choice I should have made 37 years ago," Reaper continued, voice steady despite the crack running through it. "You chose generosity over survival. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen a kid do." He took the $1. Not because he needed it, because refusing would dishonor what this boy was trying to do. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his vest pocket over his heart, right next to the memorial patch he'd worn for 37 years. "Where's your sister now?" "Grain mill, old millstone place, 4 miles that way." Levi pointed north. "She's with my little brother Silas. He's 5. I left them there because June's too sick to walk and Silas won't leave her." 4 miles? Reaper's voice went sharp. "And you were walking there and back?" Levi shrugged like it was normal. "I walk everywhere. Been doing it for 8 months. 8 months. Reaper looked at the limp, the shoes, the exhaustion carved into every line of this too thin body. "With that ankle?" "It's okay." Levi's voice got smaller. "Mama said Cartwrights are tough. I'm tough." And that's when Reaper understood exactly how bad things had gotten. Because this boy's mother had taught him to be tough, to help others, to do right by people. Good lessons. Important lessons. But she'd also left him alone at 11 years old, responsible for a 7-year-old with pneumonia and a 5-year-old who didn't understand their mother was never coming back. "Levi, listen to me." Reaper put a hand on the boy's shoulder, gentle but firm. "I'm going to walk back to that gas station, get fuel, come back for my bike. Then I'm following you to that grain mill. I need to see your sister. And we need to talk. Because what you just did, giving me that $1, that makes you family. And family takes care of each other." Levi's face went worried. "I gave you my medicine money. If you tell anyone, they'll take June and Silas away. CPS took us before. It was bad. Really bad." Reaper's jaw tightened. CPS. Foster care. Something had gone very wrong there. "How bad?" Levi's hand went to his wrists, rubbing them through his hoodie sleeves. Old habit. Then he looked up at Reaper, and in his eyes was the kind of exhaustion that didn't belong in an 11-year-old. "The foster dad, Mr. Benson. Levi stopped. Started again. "He made us do things, work things, for money. And when one of the other kids, Emmett, he tried to say no, Mr. Benson beat him until he couldn't stand up. That night I grabbed June and Silas and we ran. We've been hiding ever since." The world tilted. Foster care abuse. A trafficking house, most likely. And this boy had been protecting his siblings for 8 months. Sleeping in an abandoned building, walking miles for food, doing whatever it took to keep them together. "Levi, does anyone else know where you're living?" The boy's voice dropped to a whisper. "The pharmacist, Mr. Harlan. He caught me stealing medicine for June 3 months ago. He said he wouldn't call the police if I worked for him. So I deliver packages. I think there's drugs in them, but if I stop, he won't give me medicine anymore, and June will die." Reaper's blood went cold. Blackmail, child labor, drug trafficking. A network, not just one bad foster parent. He pulled out his phone again, hand steady despite the rage building in his chest. Still no service. He'd have to get to the gas station. Levi, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to tell you is a promise, and I don't break promises. The boy looked up. You're not delivering anything ever again. June is getting medicine tonight. Real medicine. From a real doctor. Your little brother is getting food and a warm place to sleep. And the men who've been using you are never touching another child. I'm calling my brothers and we're ending this. Do you understand? This is over. Levi's eyes filled with tears he'd been holding back for 8 months. You can end it? Really? Really? Reaper extended his hand for a handshake, treating Levi like a man, not a child, because this boy had been carrying adult burdens for too long. Levi's small hand disappeared in Reaper's grip. Reaper didn't squeeze hard, just held firm, steady, unshakable. One more thing, Reaper said. He pulled the dollar bill from his vest pocket. I'm keeping this. When this is over, I'm giving it back to you, and you can decide what to do with it. But right now, it's mine. Because you trusted me with it. And that trust means something. What Levi and his siblings didn't know. In 23 minutes, Reaper would make one phone call. In 47 minutes, the first motorcycles would roar to life in Wichita, Kansas. In 91 minutes, brothers from Oklahoma City would be rolling south. In 3 hours and 14 minutes, 203 Hells Angels would be converging on Calhoun, Oklahoma, from 3 states. And in 4 hours and 6 minutes, a pharmacist who'd built a $1.8 million trafficking empire would be face down on asphalt, screaming about his rights, while evidence of 23 exploited children was being photographed by federal agents who'd been trying to build this case for 6 years. But none of that had happened yet. Right now, it was 6:52 p.m. on a Sunday. Levi had 8 minutes before the clinic closed, and Reaper had 8 minutes to make sure this boy understood he didn't have to carry the world alone anymore. Come on, Reaper said, gesturing south. Gas station's 4 miles. We walk together. You tell me everything, every name, every place, every person who's hurt you or your sister or your brother. And when we get there, I make the call that changes everything. Levi hesitated. What if they don't believe you? Adults never believe kids. Reaper knelt one more time, eye to eye. Kid, I'm president of the Hells Angels Oklahoma chapter. I've been writing for 27 years. When I make a call about a child in danger, 203 men drop everything and move. Not because they believe me, because they trust me. And I'm trusting you, that's how this works. He stood, offered his hand. Levi took it. And they started walking south, toward the gas station, toward the phone call, toward the moment when one crumpled dollar bill would unlock a case federal agents couldn't crack and expose a system that had failed 23 children over 6 years. The wind cut across the highway. Levi's shuffle-scrape footsteps kept rhythm with Reaper's boots. The sun dropped below the horizon. And in the growing darkness, a boy who'd given away his last dollar finally stopped walking alone. 7:03 p.m. Conoco Gas Station, Highway 60. 16 minutes after Levi handed Reaper that dollar, they walked through the automatic doors into fluorescent light and overheated air that smelled like coffee left on the burner too long and cheap air freshener. The clerk behind the counter, male, mid-30s, name tag reading Brad, looked up from his phone. His eyes went to Reaper's vest first, then to Levi beside him, and something shifted in his expression. Recognition. You, Brad said, voice flat. I told you last week. You can't keep coming in here. This isn't a homeless shelter. Reaper's hand tightened on Levi's shoulder. He's with me. Brad's eyes narrowed. Sure he is. Look, I don't want trouble. But that kid's been in here 5-6 times in the past month, trying to use the phone, asking for change, hanging around the bathroom. I'm trying to run a business. He was asking for help, Reaper said quietly. He was loitering. Brad crossed his arms. And now he's back with some biker who probably picked him up on the highway. You want me to call the sheriff, or are you going to take him and leave? The dismissal in Brad's voice, the automatic assumption that Levi was a problem to be removed, not a child in crisis, made Reaper's jaw clench. But he didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. You're going to sell me 2 gallons of gas. Then you're going to let me use your phone to make one call. And then you're going to remember this conversation when federal agents show up asking why you saw a child in distress 6 times and did nothing. Brad's face went white. I didn't. I mean, he never said he was in trouble. He was 11 years old, walking into your store at night without shoes that fit, asking to use the phone. What did you think was happening? Brad had no answer. Reaper pulled out a $20 bill, not the dollar Levi gave him that was staying in his vest, and placed it on the counter. 2 gallons. And the phone. Now. Brad took the 20 with shaking hands, rang up the gas, and slid the corded phone across the counter. Reaper picked it up, dialed a number he knew by heart, and turned slightly so Levi could hear. It rang twice. Yeah? The voice on the other end was gravel and cigarettes. Marcus Stitch Cole, Vice President, former Army combat medic, Reaper's right hand for 14 years. Stitch, it's Reaper. Where are you? Meeting starts in 2 hours. I'm not making the meeting. I'm on Highway 60, 2 miles north of Calhoun. Listen carefully, this is a Marcus call. The line went silent. A Marcus call. The words Reaper had only used twice in 37 years. The code that meant, child in immediate danger, mobilize everyone, no questions asked. When Stitch spoke again, his voice was different. All business. Talk to me. 11-year-old boy, 2 younger siblings, 7 and 5, homeless 8 months, living in abandoned grain mill outside town. Sister has untreated pneumonia, fever over 104. Boy's been blackmailed into drug running by local pharmacist in exchange for medicine. Previous foster placement was trafficking house. He escaped with siblings. CPS is compromised. Local law enforcement might be on the take. This is a network, not a solo predator. Stitch didn't ask for proof. Didn't ask if Reaper was sure. Just, how many bodies do you need? Everyone within 200 miles. I want 3 chapters. I want our medical team. I want badge for investigation. I want profit for CPS navigation. And I want Cypher to crack every digital lock these bastards have. You got it. Where do we stage? I'll text coordinates when I have service. But Stitch, this one's personal. The boy gave me his last dollar to help me get home. $1. All he had. While his sister's dying and he's got nothing, he stopped to help a stranded biker. The line went quiet again. Then, Jesus, he made your choice. He made the right choice. The one I didn't make. And I'm not letting Marcus's death be for nothing. Not this time. Understood. We'll be rolling in 30 minutes. Figure 4 hours to Calhoun. You'll have 200 plus by midnight. 203, Reaper corrected. That's how many responded to Marcus's funeral. I want that same turnout. This boy deserves it. You'll get 203. A pause. Reaper, what's his name? Levi Cartwright. Levi Cartwright. We're coming for you, kid. Hang tight. The line went dead. Reaper set the phone down and looked at Levi, who was staring at him with wide eyes. That's it? Levi whispered. You just made a phone call? That's it. And people are coming? 203 people. My brothers. They'll be here by midnight. But first, we're getting your sister to a hospital. Right now. He turned to Brad, who'd been listening to every word. Where's the nearest emergency room? Brad stammered. Calhoun Regional, 15 minutes south. Good. You're going to drive us there in your car. Then you're going to wait while doctors see the girl. And then you're going to drive us back to the grain mill. Are we clear? I can't just leave the store, Reaper's voice dropped. A 7-year-old is dying of pneumonia 4 miles from here while you sold cigarettes and energy drinks. You watched her brother walk past your window 6 times asking for help, and you called him a loiterer. So here's what's happening. You're closing this store, putting up a sign that says family emergency, and you're driving these kids to the hospital. Because if you don't, when 203 bikers show up at midnight, the first thing I'm telling them is that you had 6 chances to save a child and chose not to. How do you think that conversation goes? Brad grabbed his keys. I'll get my car, at 47 p.m. Calhoun Regional Hospital Emergency Room. June. Marie Cartwright weighed 38 pounds when the ER nurse lifted her onto the exam table. She should have weighed 51. Her fever was 104.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Her oxygen saturation was 89%. Her breathing sounded like crackling paper. The attending physician, Dr. Sarah Kim, 42, 10 years in emergency medicine, took one look at June's condition and called for immediate intervention. IV fluids, oxygen, antibiotics, chest X-ray portable to bedside. Levi stood in the corner of the exam room, holding 5-year-old Silas's hand, watching doctors move around his sister with the kind of coordinated efficiency that came from years of training. Reaper stood beside them, one hand on Levi's shoulder. She's going to be okay, he said quietly. How do you know? Levi's voice broke. Because they're good at this. And because she's tough. Like you. Dr. Kim approached after the initial stabilization, tablet in hand, expression serious. Are you the father? She asked Reaper. No. Friend of the family. Their mother passed away 11 months ago. These 3 have been on their own. Dr. Kim's eyes widened slightly. Then she turned to Levi. How long has your sister been sick? Levi looked at the floor. 11 weeks, maybe 12. She started coughing in September. It got worse. And you didn't bring her to a doctor? I tried. The clinic costs money. I didn't have money. His voice got smaller. I was trying to get medicine from somewhere else. Dr. Kim crouched down to his eye level, voice gentle. Levi, you did an incredible job taking care of her. Most adults wouldn't have kept her alive this long with pneumonia this severe. But I need you to understand something. June is very sick. She has bacterial pneumonia, dehydration, and she's severely malnourished. We're admitting her for at least 72 hours, maybe longer. She's going to need IV antibiotics, respiratory therapy, and monitoring. Is she going to die? Not if I can help it. But it's serious. Levi nodded, processing. Then, what about Silas and me? Are you calling CPS? Dr. Kim glanced at Reaper, uncertain. Reaper spoke first. Hospital policy requires reporting minors without a guardian, correct? Yes. We have to notify Child Protective Services when children arrive without parental supervision. I understand. But before you make that call, you should know. These children escaped from a foster home where they were being abused. The CPS caseworker who placed them there is corrupt. If you call the standard hotline, there's a chance the report goes straight back to the person who put them in danger in the first place. Dr. Kim's face went pale. Are you serious? I'm very serious. And within the next 4 hours, I'm going to have documentation proving it. So here's what I'm asking. Delay that CPS call for 72 hours. That's the same window you're keeping June admitted. Give me time to get the right authorities involved. Federal, not local. I'll make sure these kids are protected. I could lose my license for not reporting. You could lose these kids' lives by reporting to the wrong person. Which risk are you willing to take? Dr. Kim looked at Levi, at Silas, at June on the exam table, with an oxygen mask covering half her small face. 72 hours, she said. But if you don't have a solution by then, I have to make the call. You'll have a solution, I promise. 8:34 p.m. Abandoned Millstone Grain Processing Facility, Route 9 West. Brad's sedan pulled up to the grain mill in near total darkness. The building was a hulking shadow against the night sky. 3 stories of rusted metal siding, broken windows, and industrial decay. Reaper climbed out first, flashlight in hand. Levi and Silas followed. This is where you've been living? Reaper's voice was carefully neutral. Yeah, it's got a roof, mostly. They walked through a gap in the chain-link fence and entered through a side door that had been forced open months ago. Inside, the air smelled like mildew and old machinery. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. Levi led them to a corner on the second floor, where he'd set up what could generously be called a camp. 3 cardboard boxes flattened to make beds. A single blanket, worn thin. A plastic grocery bag with 2 cans of beans and a sleeve of crackers. A composition notebook. And in the corner, carefully arranged, a small collection of items that told a story. A photograph. A woman with kind eyes, arms around 3 children. Levi's mother. A toy truck. Silas's, probably. And dozens of small pieces of paper with phone numbers written on them. Reaper knelt, picked up the notebook. Can I look at this? Levi nodded. Reaper opened it. Inside were 147 entries, each one formatted the same way. Date: September 3rd, 19. Time: 2:17 a.m. Address: 847. Pine Street package, brown box taped. Person: man, 40s, beard, blue truck. Plate: OKL-4729. Payment: none. Mr. Harland said, on account. Entry after entry. Dates, times, addresses, descriptions, license plates. 8 months of meticulous documentation. This 11-year-old boy had been building a case file. Reaper's hands tightened on the notebook. Levi, did anyone tell you to write this down? No, I knew something was wrong. I knew the packages were bad, so I wrote everything down, just in case anyone ever believed me. Just in case anyone ever believed me. The weight of those words settled in Reaper's chest like stones. Kid, this notebook is going to put a lot of bad people in prison. You understand that? Levi looked up, eyes wide. Really? Really? You just did what trained investigators couldn't do. You documented everything. For the first time since they'd met, Levi smiled. Small, but real. Mama always said, write it down, make it real. Your mama was right. Reaper stood, pulled out his phone. Still no service. He walked to the broken window, held the phone up, moved it around until finally, 1 bar. He dialed. Stitch, you rolling? 127 from Oklahoma, 49 from Kansas, 27 from Missouri. We're at 203. ETA, Calhoun, 11:47 p.m. Where do you want us? Staging area, parking lot of Calhoun Regional Hospital. I've got a 7-year-old admitted with pneumonia. I've got an 11-year-old with a composition notebook that documents 147 drug deliveries, and I've got names, addresses, and license plates for a trafficking network that's been operating for 6 years. Badge needs to see this tonight. He's riding with me. We'll be there. Good. And Stitch? When Badge sees what this kid documented, tell him to prepare 3 arrest warrants minimum. Pharmacist, CPS caseworker, foster parent. Maybe a deputy if Prophet's theory about law enforcement involvement is right. FBI? Already in my head. Prophet has contacts at Oklahoma City field office. We'll make the call when we have everything lined up. But first I want these kids safe. Levi doesn't sleep in a grain mill ever again. Copy? Copied. We're going to need housing. You want me to call Elena? Elena Martinez, former foster kid herself. Married to Stitch 3 years ago. Licensed foster parent now, specifically for emergency placements through the club's network. Yeah, call her. Tell her 3 kids, emergency situation needs to be tonight. I'll cover all costs. She'll say yes before I finish asking. See you at midnight, brother. The line went dead. Reaper turned back to Levi, who was watching him with an expression somewhere between hope and disbelief. Here's what's happening. In 3 hours, 203 of my brothers are arriving. We're setting up at the hospital. Tomorrow morning, we're gathering evidence, getting witness statements, and building a case that the FBI can't ignore. By tomorrow night, the people who hurt you are going to be in handcuffs. And you, June, and Silas are going to be sleeping in a real house with real beds and food in the fridge. Sound good? Levi's voice was barely a whisper. Why are you doing this? Reaper crouched down one more time, pulled the dollar bill from his vest pocket, held it between them. Because 37 years ago, I had a choice. I chose wrong. My brother died. You made the choice I should have made. You helped someone even when it cost you everything. That matters. You matter. And I'm not letting another kid slip through the cracks. Not on my watch. He held out his hand. Levi took it. Come on. Let's get you and Silas to the hospital. Your sister needs to see you when she wakes up. And you need to sleep somewhere warm for the first time in 8 months. They walked out of the grain mill together. Reaper, Levi, and Silas, leaving behind the cardboard beds and the darkness and the 8 months of survival. Brad drove them back to Calhoun Regional in silence. At 9:23 p.m., Levi saw June in her hospital bed, oxygen mask removed, breathing easier, eyes open. She smiled when she saw him. He cried. At 10:47 p.m., Elena Martinez arrived at the hospital with blankets, snacks, and the kind of calm competence that came from years of handling emergency placements. She sat with Levi and Silas in the family waiting room, asked gentle questions, made no demands. At 11:34 p.m., the first rumble started. Distant, low, like thunder on the horizon. Then closer, then a roar that shook the windows. At 11:47 p.m. exactly, 203 motorcycles pulled into Calhoun Regional Hospital parking lot in perfect formation. Headlights cut through the darkness. Chrome gleamed. Engines idled in synchronized rhythm. And then, one by one, they cut off. The sudden silence after all that noise felt heavy and expectant. Levi stood at the window, watching. 203 Hell's Angels. 3 chapters. All here because one boy gave a stranded biker his last dollar. Reaper walked up beside him, placed a hand on his shoulder. That's family, kid, and family doesn't leave you behind. Levi couldn't speak, could only watch as 203 men in leather vests dismounted and stood in the parking lot, waiting for orders. Waiting to help. waiting to prove that sometimes the most dangerous-looking people are exactly who you need when the world stops caring. And in that moment, for the first time in 8 months, Levi James Cartwright believed he might actually be safe. Monday, November 24th, 2019, 12:03 a.m. Calhoun Regional Hospital parking lot. Now you might be thinking, 203 Hell's Angels arriving at a small-town hospital in the middle of the night, and chaos is about to break loose. Shouting, intimidation, maybe some property damage in the name of justice. That's not what happened. What happened instead was a coordinated operation with the kind of discipline that would make any military commander nod in approval. Because these weren't just bikers. These were investigators, medics, lawyers, technicians, men who'd spent decades building cases, protecting witnesses, and dismantling networks that law enforcement couldn't touch. And they'd come prepared. Marcus Stitch Cole stepped forward first. 6'1", 47 years old, graying beard, combat medic patch visible on his vest next to 3 deployment ribbons. He carried a large black duffel bag marked with a red cross. Reaper. He clasped forearms with his president. Where's the girl? Room 247. Stable. They've got her on IV antibiotics, oxygen, fluids. Dr. Kim says she'll pull through. Stitch nodded. I'll check on her anyway. Make sure they're doing it right. David Badge Miller came next. 52. Former Chicago PD detective. 20 years on the force before he quit over corruption he couldn't stomach. He wore reading glasses on a chain and carried a leather portfolio. You said you have documentation? Reaper handed him Levi's composition notebook. Badge opened it. Read the first page. The second. His expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened. This kid documented 147 deliveries. Dates, times, addresses, vehicle descriptions, license plates. He looked up. This is better chain of custody than half the cases I worked in Chicago. Who taught him to do this? Nobody. He just knew something was wrong and wrote it all down. Badge's voice went quiet. Where is he? Inside, with his siblings. Safe. Good. Keep him there. I'm going to start cross-referencing these addresses against known distribution networks. If this pharmacist is moving the volume, I think he is, some of these names will pop in federal databases. Robert Cypher Hayes approached third. 43. Computer forensics expert. Former NSA contractor who'd quit over surveillance ethics. He carried a laptop bag and a portable hard drive. I'll need access to the pharmacy's computer systems, security footage if they have it, financial records. Can we get a warrant? Not yet, Badge said, but we can get voluntary cooperation. Prophet, you're up. James, Prophet Anderson, stepped forward. 56. Former CPS investigator. 6 years with Oklahoma Department of Human Services before he'd quit. Because, as he put it, I couldn't fix the system from inside. I know Terrence Walsh, Prophet said, voice bitter. Worked with him 2014 to 2016. He was dirty then. Filing false reports, closing cases without investigation. Nobody would listen when I flagged it. Cost me my job when I pushed too hard. He looked at Reaper. You said the kids escaped from a foster home? Gerald Benson's place. 1205 County Road 19. Levi says Benson beat another kid unconscious for refusing to make a drug delivery. That's when they ran. Prophet pulled out his phone, scrolled through contacts. I still have friends at Oklahoma City Field Office, FBI. They've been trying to build a case against Walsh for 3 years. If I tell them we have physical evidence and witness testimony, they'll move tonight." "Make the call," Reaper said. Prophet stepped away, phone to his ear. Thomas Wrench Sullivan, 44, master mechanic, logistics coordinator, began organizing the brothers into teams. "Listen up. We got 4 priorities. Team 1, evidence. Badge is lead. You're canvassing these addresses from the notebook, documenting properties, taking photos, gathering witness statements. Team 2, medical. Stitch is lead. You're liaising with hospital staff, making sure the girl gets everything she needs. Team 3, legal. Prophet's coordinating with FBI. When they move, we provide security and support. Team 4, protection. 20 brothers stay here, rotating shifts. Nobody gets near these kids without clearance. Questions?" No questions, just nods. The teams dispersed. At 12:47 a.m., Badge and 12 brothers began visiting addresses from Levi's notebook. First stop, 847 Pine Street. The house was dark. Badge knocked. Waited. Knocked again. A man in his 60s answered, squinting against the porch light. "Can I help you?" Badge held up the notebook, open to the entry from September 3rd. "Sir, were you home on this date at approximately 2:17 a.m.? The man's face went pale. "What's this about?" "We're investigating a drug trafficking operation. Records show a delivery was made to this address. We're gathering witness statements. Did you receive a package that night?" The man looked at the 13 bikers standing on his lawn, looked at Badge's calm, professional expression, made a calculation. "I want a lawyer." "That's your right. But here's what I can tell you. We're not law enforcement. We're private citizens gathering information for federal investigators who will be contacting you within 24 hours. You can talk to us now and maybe help yourself by cooperating, or you can wait for the FBI and explain why a child was forced to deliver opioids to your house at 2 in the morning. Your choice." The man's shoulders sagged. "It wasn't supposed to be a kid. Harlan said it was adults making deliveries." "But it was a kid." Yeah, it was. Skinny boy, maybe 12. He was limping. I asked if he was okay. He said he was fine, handed me the package and left. I didn't think, I thought maybe it was his dad's business or something." Badge wrote this down. "How many deliveries?" 3, maybe 4, over 2 months. "And you knew the packages contained opioids?" The man hesitated. Then, "Yes. Thank you for your honesty. Federal agents will be in touch." They moved to the next address, and the next, and the next. By 3 a.m., Badge had documented statements from 11 recipients. All of them admitted knowing the packages contained drugs. 7 of them mentioned seeing a child make deliveries. Not one had called the police. At 3:34 a.m., Badge found the witness he'd been hoping for. 3:34 a.m., 1247 Oakwood Drive. Dorothy Mae Henderson answered the door in a bathrobe, silver hair in curlers, eyes sharp despite the hour. 71 years old, retired librarian, lived across the street from Harlan Family Pharmacy for 43 years. Badge introduced himself, explained the investigation. Dorothy's face crumpled. "I knew," she whispered. "God help me, I knew something was wrong." She invited them inside, made coffee, sat at her kitchen table with her hands wrapped around a mug she didn't drink from. "I saw children going in and out of that pharmacy at night. Late night? 2, 3 in the morning. I saw them loading boxes into a van. I saw them get into cars with men I didn't recognize. This happened 11 times over the past 2 years that I can specifically remember, maybe more that I didn't see." "Did you report it?" Her voice broke. "No, I told myself it wasn't my business, that maybe Harlan was running a charity or something, that there had to be an explanation. But I knew. Deep down, I knew those children were being used for something bad, and I chose not to get involved because I didn't want the trouble. I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to be the busybody neighbor who ruined a man's reputation over a misunderstanding. She finally looked up, tears streaming. But it wasn't a misunderstanding, was it? No, ma'am, it wasn't. How many children? Badge checked his notes. 23 that we've identified so far. Over 6 years. Dorothy's hand went to her mouth. 23. And I saw some of them. I could have stopped this years ago. You're stopping it now. Your testimony matters. Does it? Because those children are already hurt. They're already traumatized. Nothing I say now fixes that. Badge's voice was gentle but firm. Ma'am, you're right. We can't undo what happened. But your testimony helps make sure it doesn't happen to number 24. That's not nothing. Dorothy nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. What do you need from me? A written statement. Dates, times, descriptions of what you saw, as specific as you can remember. I kept a journal. I wrote it down every time I saw something strange. I told myself it was just observations, but really I think I knew someday someone would ask. She stood, walked to a drawer, pulled out a small leather-bound book. Inside were entries dating back to 2017. Dates, times, descriptions. 2 years of documentation. Badge's hands shook slightly as he took it. Ma'am, this is evidence. Critical evidence. You just gave us a timeline that corroborates what these children experienced. I should have given it to someone 2 years ago. You're giving it now. That counts. 4:47. A.M. Frank William Torres, 68, owner of Torres Hardware. Frank met Badge at his store, unlocked the door, let them in. Philip Harlan's been buying supplies from me for 6 years, Frank said, walking Badge through aisles. Packing tape, boxes, bubble wrap, shipping labels, plastic sheeting, quantities that never made sense for a small-town pharmacy. How much? I pulled the records when you called. Frank handed over a folder. 6 years of purchases. Average $400 a month in packing supplies. For a pharmacy that does maybe 20 mail-order prescriptions a year. That's suspicious. I knew it was suspicious. But Harlan's family built that pharmacy. His grandfather founded it in 1967. He's Rotary Club. He sponsors Little League. I told myself there had to be a legitimate explanation. But you never asked what the explanation was. Frank looked down. No, because I didn't want to lose a good customer. And because calling out Philip Harlan in this town would have made me a pariah. He's connected. He's respected. And I'm just a hardware store owner who didn't want trouble. Badge wrote this down. You're willing to testify? Yes. I'm tired of being quiet. 15. A.M. Sandra Louise Kimball, 59, former member of First Baptist Church. Sandra sat in her living room, hands folded, voice steady despite the tremor beneath. I knew Gerald Benson personally. We attended the same church for 9 years. I watched children come and go from his house. So many children. He'd introduced them at Sunday service. This is Tyler, my new foster son. This is Emma. She just joined our family. And then 3 months later, 4 months later, they'd be gone. Tyler decided to go live with relatives. Emma ran away. Please pray for her. It happened over and over. How many? 8 that I personally met at church. Maybe more that I didn't. And every single time I thought, this is strange. Foster children don't usually cycle through homes that fast. But Gerald would explain it away. Difficult kids, behavioral issues, the system moving them around. And I wanted to believe him because he seemed so dedicated. He volunteered with youth group. He led Bible study. How could someone like that be harming children? Her voice went bitter. That's the trick, isn't it? Looking the part, acting the part, and good people like me choosing to believe the performance instead of trusting our instincts. Did you ever report your concerns? No, because I had no proof. Just a feeling. And feelings don't stand up in court or at church board meetings, so I stayed quiet. And now I'm learning that at least one of those children, Tyler Hammond, is dead. And I wonder if he'd be alive if I'd spoken up when I first started feeling uneasy. Badge closed his notebook. Ms. Kimball, guilt is a powerful thing, but it's not productive unless it leads to action. You're acting now. That matters. She looked at him with eyes that hadn't slept. Does it feel like it matters? Because all I feel is sick. It matters to the children still alive. It matters to the boy who's safe tonight instead of making his 148th delivery. Hold on to that. Just 23. A.M. Calhoun Regional Hospital. Conference room. Badge, Stitch, Prophet, Cypher, and Reaper gathered around a table covered with evidence. Levi's composition notebook open to page 1. Dorothy Henderson's journal. Frank Torres's purchase records. 11 witness statements from delivery recipients. 3 witness testimonies from community members who'd seen but stayed silent. Cypher had his laptop open, running searches. I cross-referenced the addresses from Levi's notebook against federal drug trafficking databases. 17 of the 31 recipients have prior convictions or are currently under investigation for opioid-related offenses. This isn't small time. Harlan's been supplying a regional network. Prophet's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, hung up. FBI's sending a team. ETA, 90 minutes. Special Agent Rebecca Torres, Oklahoma City Field Office. She's been investigating Walsh for 3 years. When I told her we had physical evidence of 23 child placements connected to a trafficking operation, she mobilized immediately. Badge leaned back. We need to move fast. Once FBI arrives, jurisdiction shifts to them. Before that happens, I want to document every piece of physical evidence we can legally access. Reaper spoke for the first time in an hour. What about Tyler Hammond? Levi mentioned him. Said he died in 2021. Called it a staged overdose. Prophet pulled out his phone, searched, found it. Tyler James Hammond, age 13. Died March 17, 2021. Official cause of death, accidental opioid overdose. He was in Gerald Benson's foster care. The investigating officer was... His voice went flat. Deputy Mitchell Crenshaw. The room went silent. Badge spoke carefully. So we have pharmacist running distribution, CPS caseworker placing kids into the pipeline, foster parent housing and exploiting them, and a deputy closing investigations. That's not a crime. That's a system. Cypher kept typing. I'm pulling Crenshaw's financials now. Give me 5 minutes. 3 minutes later, he found it. Crenshaw's had irregular deposits over the past 18 months. Amounts vary between $4,000 and $11,000, all labeled security consulting fees. Except there's no consulting business on record. No LLC, no sole proprietorship, nothing. Just cash deposits every 4 to 6 weeks. Total? Badge asked. $127,400. Stitch spoke up. That's a payroll? Harlan's paying Crenshaw to bury complaints and close investigations. Prophet nodded. And Walsh is getting paid to feed kids into the system. I'm betting if we pull his financials, we'll find the same pattern. Cypher typed faster. Already on it. Walsh's bank records show, yeah, deposits labeled consulting fees from an LLC that doesn't exist. $8,500 per deposit. Matches the timing of foster placements. 2033 deposits over 6 years. Total? $195,500. Badge did the math in his head. Harlan's paying Walsh $8,500 per kid to place them with Benson, paying Crenshaw $127,400 to protect the operation. How much is Benson getting? Cypher pulled up Benson's records. Foster care stipend is $1,850 per month per child. Benson's had 23 placements over 6 years, average stay 4.7 months. That's $227,300 in fraudulent benefit claims. He's getting paid to house kids he's actively exploiting. Reaper's voice was ice. What's the total network value? Cypher calculated. Walsh kickbacks, $195,500. Crenshaw payoffs, $127,400. Benson foster fraud, $227,300. That's $550,200 just in the support infrastructure. Harlan's opioid sales are harder to estimate, but based on Levi's notebook documenting $147,000 in deliveries over 8 months, extrapolated across 6 years, conservatively, $1.3 million. Total network value, approximately $1.847 million. The number hung in the air like smoke. $1,847,600. 23 children. 6 years. Badge broke the silence. We need the second victim. Levi mentioned Tyler Hammond. We need to prove his death wasn't an accident. Prophet pulled up Tyler's case file. Death certificate lists accidental overdose. Medical examiner found oxycodone in his system. The pills were traced back to Harlan's pharmacy. He claimed Tyler must have stolen them. Case closed within 72 hours. Who closed it? Deputy Mitchell Crenshaw. And who profited? Prophet dug deeper. Found it. Gerald Benson had a life insurance policy on Tyler, opened 3 months after Tyler's placement. $47,000 payout. Benson was listed as beneficiary. Stitch's voice was careful. 3 months after placement, policy opens. 9 months later, kid dies of accidental overdose from pills that came from Harlan's pharmacy. Investigation closed by a deputy on Harlan's payroll, and the foster parent collects $47,000. Badge closed his notebook. That's not an accident. That's murder for profit. Can we prove it? Not yet, but we can create enough reasonable doubt that a prosecutor will reopen the case. Tyler had no history of drug use. I'd bet my badge on it. We find his school records, talk to his teachers, prove he was a good kid with no behavioral red flags. Then we show the financial motive. Then we show the pattern. Same methods, same players, same payouts. A jury will see it. Reaper stood. We've got 90 minutes before FBI arrives. What's the move? Badge looked at his watch. We go to the pharmacy. Right now. Before Harlan knows we're coming. We document everything we can see from public access. Window displays, hours posted, any visible violations. We talk to employees arriving for opening shift. And we pray someone cooperates before lawyers shut it down. 7:03 a.m. Harlan Family Pharmacy, 847 Main Street, Calhoun. The pharmacy sat on Main Street like it had for 52 years. Red brick, white trim, hand-painted sign reading Harlan Family Pharmacy, serving Calhoun since 1967. A sandwich board on the sidewalk advertising flu shots and senior discounts. It looked exactly like every other small-town pharmacy in America. 37 hellsangels stood across the street, not blocking traffic, not making noise, just standing, watching. The presence alone was enough. Within 10 minutes, people noticed. Cars slowed. A police cruiser rolled past twice. At 7:47 a.m., Philip Harlan's 2024 Lexus RX 35. O pulled into the parking lot behind the pharmacy. Harlan stepped out. 51 years old. White pharmacist coat over a blue Oxford shirt. Reading glasses on a chain. Wedding ring. Polished loafers. He looked tired. Normal. Like a man arriving for another day at work. He didn't notice the bikers until he reached the back door. Then he froze. Badge walked across the street alone. Stopped 10 feet away. Hands visible. Non-threatening. Mr. Harlan, my name is David Miller. I'm a private investigator. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your pharmacy's employment practices. Harlan's face went carefully neutral. I'm sorry. Who are you with? I'm working on behalf of a family whose child was employed by this pharmacy. We're gathering information about labor law compliance. I don't employ children. I occasionally hire teenagers for stock work, but only with parental consent and within legal limits. Badge pulled out Levi's composition notebook. Opened it. Held it up so Harlan could see the entries. This notebook documents 147 deliveries made by an 11-year-old boy over 8 months. The deliveries were made between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. The boy walked to addresses as far as 14 miles from this location. He was paid in medicine, not wages. Do you recognize this practice, Mr. Harlan? Harlan's jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never employed an 11-year-old. Whoever gave you that notebook is lying. The notebook includes dates, times, addresses, and descriptions of packages. We've already corroborated 12 of these deliveries with recipients who confirmed receiving packages from a child matching Levi Cartwright's description. Would you like to revise your statement? Harlan's hand moved toward his pocket. Badge's voice sharpened. Sir, if you're reaching for your phone to call an attorney, that's your right. But before you do, you should know. The FBI is arriving in approximately 60 minutes. They have a warrant for your financial records, security footage, and employee files. Cooperating now might be your only chance to control the narrative. Harlan's hand stopped. I want my lawyer. Of course, but here's what's going to happen. In 60 minutes, federal agents will be walking through that door. They'll find your ledger. They'll find your security footage. They'll find evidence of 23 children used as drug runners over 6 years. They'll trace your payments to Terrence Walsh and Mitchell Crenshaw. And they'll connect Tyler Hammond's death to a $47,000 insurance payout that you facilitated. So you can call your lawyer now and wait. Or you can start thinking about what deal you might negotiate if you cooperate. Harlan's face went white. Tyler Hammond's death was an accident. Was it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like murder for profit. And the pattern suggests Levi Cartwright was next. Harlan's hands started shaking. I didn't kill anyone. Tyler stole those pills. I had nothing to do with... He stopped. Realized he'd just admitted knowing about the pills. Badge wrote this down. Thank you for clarifying. Federal agents will want to hear that testimony under oath. Harlan backed toward his car. I'm leaving. This conversation is over. You're free to go. But those 37 men across the street? They're going to follow you. Not threaten you, not touch you. Just document everywhere you go, everyone you talk to, everything you do until FBI arrives. Because we've spent 6 years wondering where Levi Cartwright and his siblings disappeared to. Now we know. And we're not letting you near another child ever again. Harlan got in his car, started the engine. Sat there for 11 seconds, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Badge couldn't hear what he said, but he could see Harlan's lips moving, could see the panic in his eyes. And Badge knew the network was breaking. 8:34 a.m. FBI. Special Agent Rebecca Torres arrived with a team of 6 agents in 3 unmarked vehicles. She stepped out, mid-40s, dark suit, FBI credentials hanging from her neck, carrying a briefcase that Badge knew contained warrants. Prophet met her at the hospital entrance. They'd worked together before, back when he was still with Oklahoma DHS. Torres. He shook her hand. Thanks for coming. Thank you for calling. 3 years I've been trying to nail Walsh. Every time I got close, evidence disappeared or witnesses recanted. You're telling me you have documentation? Better. We have a witness with a photographic memory who can recite a phone conversation verbatim, a composition notebook with 147 documented drug deliveries, and 3 community members willing to testify about what they saw and ignored. Torres's eyes widened. Show me. They walked inside to Conference Room B, where Badge had everything laid out. Torres spent 11 minutes reviewing the evidence without speaking. Then she looked up. This is prosecutable. All of it. Walsh, Harlan, Benson, Crenshaw, I can file charges today. She paused. Where's the child who documented this? Safe. With his siblings. Under our protection until you can guarantee theirs. I can guarantee it now. I'm placing them in emergency protective custody under federal authority. Walsh doesn't get anywhere near them. Reaper spoke from the corner. The boy's been failed by every authority figure in his life. He doesn't trust Badges. He trusts me. So here's how this works. You file your charges, you make your arrests, you build your case. But the kids stay with Elena Martinez, licensed foster parent, former foster kid herself, married to one of my brothers. She's already cleared for emergency placements. You want statements from Levi, you coordinate through me. He talks when he's ready, not when it's convenient for your timeline. Torres studied Reaper for a long moment, then nodded. Agreed. But I need something from you in return. When we arrest these 4, this town is going to fracture. Harlan's connected. Benson's respected. People are going to choose sides, and some of them are going to choose wrong. I need your brothers to stand down. No vigilante justice. No intimidation. We do this by the book. We've been doing it by the book for 12 hours. That's why you have evidence instead of a crime scene. We'll keep doing it by the book, but we're not leaving until every child is accounted for and safe. Fair. Torres pulled out her phone. I'm calling for arrest warrants. 4 targets, simultaneous execution. Give me 2 hours. 10:47 a.m. 4 arrests, executed simultaneously. Location 1, Harlan Family Pharmacy. 6 FBI agents entered through the front door with a warrant. Philip Harlan was behind the counter, filling a prescription for an elderly woman, humming something under his breath without realizing it. When he saw the agents, he froze mid-pour. Pills scattered across the counter. Philip James Harlan, you're under arrest for conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, child endangerment, and conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent. The elderly woman gasped, backed away. Harlan's hands went up automatically. This is a mistake. I'm a pharmacist. I serve this community. I've never... You employed 23 children as drug runners over 6 years. We have documentation. We have witnesses. We have your ledger. Agent Torres's voice was flat. Face down on the floor. Now. Harlan looked around his pharmacy, the one his grandfather built, the one bearing his family's name, the one where he'd worked for 27 years, as if seeing it for the first time. Then he went down. Face scraping the tile floor he'd mopped 1,000 times. Hands behind his back. The same hands that had given children medicine in exchange for criminal labor. he asked, once quietly. "Can someone lock the front door? I don't want customers seeing this." As if that were the thing that mattered. As if preserving the pharmacy's reputation could somehow separate him from what he'd done inside it. Location 2. Potter County Department of Human Services. Terrence Walsh was at his desk, reviewing case files, when 4 agents walked through his office door. "Terrence Paul Walsh, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit child trafficking, fraud, and accepting bribes from a criminal enterprise." Walsh stood slowly. "I'm a state employee. You can't just... We have bank records showing $195,500 in payments from a shell company connected to Philip Harlan. We have email correspondence discussing placement opportunities. And we have 23 foster children placed with Gerald Benson despite documented abuse complaints that you personally closed. You're done." Walsh's face went gray. "I want my union rep." "You'll get one. At the Federal Detention Center." They walked him out in handcuffs past 7 of his co-workers who'd suspected something was wrong for years, but never had the proof to act. Location 3. 1205. County Road 19. Gerald Benson's foster home. When FBI agents arrived with a warrant, they found Benson in his garage, working on his truck, wearing coveralls and listening to country music on a radio. He looked up, saw the badges, and his wrench clattered to the concrete floor. "Gerald Raymond Benson, you're under arrest for child abuse, labor trafficking, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder." Benson backed against his workbench. "I never killed anyone. Tyler's death was an accident. The medical examiner said, the medical examiner we're now investigating for falsifying reports. Tyler Hammond had no history of drug use. You took out a $47,000 insurance policy on him 3 months after he entered your care. 9 months later, he's dead from pills that came from your partner's pharmacy. That's not an accident. That's premeditated murder for profit." Benson's knees buckled. They had to hold him upright to get the cuffs on. Location 4. Potter County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Mitchell Crenshaw was at his desk, finishing paperwork on a traffic stop, when his own colleagues walked in with federal agents. "Mitchell Dean Crenshaw, stand up." Crenshaw looked at Sheriff Tom Barrett, confused. "Tom, what's going on?" Barrett's face was stone. "You're under arrest. FBI has evidence you've been on a trafficker's payroll. Get up." "That's insane. I'm a deputy. I've been on this force for 8 years. I've never..." Agent Torres stepped forward with a folder. "We have bank records showing $127,400 in deposits labeled Security Consulting. We have phone records showing 147 calls between you and Philip Harlan over 2 years. And we have civilian complaints that you logged and buried, 11 complaints about suspicious activity at Harlan's pharmacy. All investigated by you, all closed as unfounded. You weren't protecting this community. You were protecting a criminal enterprise." Crenshaw looked at his fellow officers, men and women he'd worked alongside for nearly a decade, and saw the betrayal in their faces. Sheriff Barrett removed Crenshaw's badge, his service weapon, his radio. "You just made every case you ever worked questionable. Every arrest, every report, every testimony. Do you understand what you've done to this department?" Crenshaw had no answer. They walked him out through the same station where he'd taken an oath to protect and serve, past the same citizens he'd sworn to help, into a federal vehicle that would take him to the same detention center where the people he'd protected were already being processed. 11:34 a.m., Calhoun Regional Hospital, room 247. Dr. Sarah Kim entered with a tablet and a cautiously optimistic expression. June was awake, sitting up slightly, oxygen nasal cannula in place instead of the mask. Her color was better, still pale, but no longer gray. Her breathing had the slight wheeze of recovering lungs, but nothing like the crackling desperation of 12 hours ago. Levi sat in a chair beside her bed, holding her hand. Silas was curled up asleep in another chair, covered with a blanket Elena had brought. Stitch stood by the window in his hellsangels vest, arms crossed, watching. Dr. Kim smiled at June. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" June's voice was a whisper. "Tired, but better." "That's exactly what I want to hear." Dr. Kim checked the tablet. "Your fever broke 3 hours ago, down to 99.1. Your oxygen saturation is up to 94%. Your lungs are responding well to the antibiotics. You're going to be okay." Levi's grip on June's hand tightened. "Really? Really? We're keeping her another 48 hours for observation. But the worst is over." Dr. Kim crouched down to Levi's level. "You saved your sister's life. Do you understand that? By getting her here when you did, you gave us time to treat the infection before it caused permanent damage. Most kids your age wouldn't have known what to do, you did." Levi's eyes filled with tears he'd been holding for 8 months. "I tried to get her here sooner. I tried so many times, but I didn't have money, and the clinic was always closed, and I couldn't—" "Hey." Dr. Kim put a hand on his shoulder. "You got her here. That's what matters. You did everything right." Stitch spoke from the window. "Doc, what's the prognosis long-term?" "Full recovery expected. She'll need a follow-up in 2 weeks, chest x-ray in a month, but I don't anticipate lasting complications. Kids are resilient." "And the malnutrition?" Dr. Kim's expression grew serious. "That'll take longer. She's 13 pounds underweight. We're starting her on a careful refeeding protocol. Small, frequent meals, nutrient-dense foods, monitoring for refeeding syndrome. With proper care, she should regain the weight in 3 to 4 months." "She'll get proper care," Stitch said. "I guarantee it." Dr. Kim looked at him. This large man in a leather vest covered with patches, standing guard over children he'd met less than 24 hours ago, and nodded. "I believe you." 12:43 p.m. Elena Martinez's house, 1847 Willow Creek Road. The house sat on 2 acres at the edge of Calhoun, single-story ranch style, 3 bedrooms, fenced backyard with a swing set, a home that had been specifically chosen and modified for emergency foster placements. Elena stood on the porch as Reaper's motorcycle pulled up, followed by a car driven by Wrench with Levi and Silas inside. She was 38 years old, dark hair pulled back, warm eyes that had seen enough trauma to recognize it in others. She'd been in foster care herself from age 8 to 17. She knew what these kids needed. Wrench parked, helped Silas out of the car. Levi climbed out on his own, limping slightly, shoulders hunched. Elena walked down the steps slowly, knelt to their eye level. "Hi, I'm Elena. Your brothers told me you needed a safe place to stay for a while. Is it okay if I show you around?" Levi looked at Reaper, uncertain. Reaper nodded. "She's family. Stitch's wife. She's good people." Levi turned back to Elena. "Where's June?" "She's still at the hospital getting better, but Dr. Kim says she can come home in 2 days. Until then, I thought we could get your rooms ready for when she arrives. Would you like to help me pick out which room is hers?" The word hers landed. A room. Not a corner in a grain mill. Not a cardboard box. A room. Levi nodded. Elena led them inside. The house smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Warm, lived in, safe. The living room had a couch, a TV, bookshelves filled with actual books. The kitchen had a full refrigerator, food visible through the glass door. Not padlocked, not empty. Just there. "I made lunch," Elena said. "Nothing fancy. Grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. But I didn't know what you liked, so if you want something else, just tell me." Levi stared at the kitchen table set with 3 plates, 3 glasses of milk, 3 napkins. "You made this for us?" "Of course. You're my guests." Silas tugged on Elena's sleeve. "Can we really eat it?" Elena's heart cracked. "Honey, yes. You can eat it, all of it. And when you're done, if you're still hungry, there's more. There's always more. That's how it works here." Levi sat down slowly, picked up the sandwich, took a bite. It was warm, fresh. The cheese was melted perfectly. The bread was buttered. He ate it in 11 bites without breathing. Then he looked at his plate like he'd done something wrong. Elena sat beside him. "Levi, in this house, you don't have to ask permission to eat. You don't have to earn food by working. You don't have to ration it, or save it, or worry that it'll be gone tomorrow. The fridge is always full. You can eat when you're hungry. That's a rule, okay?" Levi's voice broke. "Why are you being nice to us?" "Because you deserve nice. You've been taking care of your brother and sister for 8 months. You've been doing an adult's job at 11 years old. Now it's time to let adults take care of you. Can you try to let me do that?" Levi nodded. Silas reached for his sandwich, took a bite, smiled for the first time in months. And in the doorway, Wrench watched with Reaper, both of them silent. "Kid's gonna be okay," Wrench said quietly. "Yeah," Reaper agreed. "He is." 1:47 p.m. Calhoun Regional Hospital parking lot. The 203 Hells Angels who'd ridden through the night to get here were preparing to leave. Engines were being checked. Gear was being stowed. Brothers were clasping forearms, confirming who was riding with whom back to their home chapters. Reaper stood beside his bike, now repaired, gas tank full, ready to ride, and watched them prepare. Badge approached first. "Charges are filed. 4 arrests, federal custody, no bail. Prosecutor says she's got enough for trial without plea deals. This goes to a jury." "Good. The notebook's evidence now. FBI has it. But I made copies. 1 for you, 1 for Levi when he's ready. He'll want it. That notebook kept him sane for 8 months. Proof he wasn't crazy, wasn't making it up." Badge nodded. "Kid's got a hell of a future if he wants it. Investigative mind like that, photographic memory, attention to detail. Colleges will line up. He's 11. Let's get him through middle school first." "Fair." Stitch came next. "June's stable. Elena knows the medical protocol. I left her my number. Any complications, she calls me direct." "Thanks, brother." Prophet joined them. "FBI's reopening Tyler Hammond's case. Medical examiners being investigated. If they find evidence of falsified reports, Benson's looking at first-degree murder charges, not just manslaughter." "Tyler's family?" "His aunt's been fighting for 3 years to get his case reviewed. Torres contacted her this morning. She cried." Cypher walked up with a tablet. "Final numbers. Network value, $1,847,600 over 6 years. 23 documented victims. FBI's using Levi's notebook to identify the other 22. Some are adults now, but they're finding them. Offering counseling, legal support, restitution." Reaper absorbed this. 23 kids, 6 years, nearly $2 million, and one 11-year-old who documented everything because no one would believe him without proof. What about Harlan's assets? Frozen? House, cars, business, everything. Prosecutors are going after full restitution. Whatever the victims don't get goes to programs for trafficked kids. Wrench appeared, keys in hand. Transportation's handled. Elena's got a car. Levi's got a bike. Used, but solid. He can get to school, to appointments, wherever. No more walking 12 miles. Good. The brothers stood together for a moment, silent. Then Badge spoke. This was a good one, Reaper. Marcus would be proud. Reaper's throat tightened. Yeah, he would. One by one, the brothers started their engines. The rumble built, low, then louder, then a roar that shook the hospital windows one last time. They rolled out in formation, disciplined, precise. The same way they'd arrived. Within 8 minutes, the parking lot was empty except for Reaper and Stitch. Stitch looked at his president. You staying? For a bit. Want to see the kids settled before I head back. Elena's got them. You know that. I know. But I promised Levi I'd keep him safe. Can't keep that promise if I'm 200 miles away. Stitch understood. How long? Few days. Week, maybe. Until the nightmares stop and he believes the locked doors will stay locked. Call if you need anything. Will do. Stitch mounted his bike, started the engine, and rolled out. Reaper stood alone in the parking lot, looking at the hospital where June was recovering, thinking about the house where Levi and Silas were eating their first real meal in 8 months, holding the dollar bill that had started everything. $1. 37 years ago, he'd made the wrong choice with $1. Yesterday, an 11-year-old made the right one. And somehow, in the space between those two choices, redemption had found room to exist. 3 weeks later. Reaper hadn't planned to be at Elena's house on a Tuesday afternoon. He'd been passing through Calhoun on his way to Oklahoma City, told himself he'd just stop by to check in, see how the kids were adjusting. But when he pulled up, he found Levi in the driveway, working on the used bike Wrench had delivered. A Trek mountain bike, nothing fancy, but sturdy and reliable. The boy had a wrench in his hand and grease on his fingers, adjusting the derailleur with the kind of focused concentration Reaper recognized. The same look Levi had when he was documenting deliveries in his notebook. The same precision. Chain skipping? Reaper asked, walking over. Levi looked up, surprised. Then smiled. Yeah, third gear's been sticking. Reaper crouched beside him. Mind if I take a look? They worked on it together for 11 minutes without talking. Reaper showed him how to adjust the tension, how to test the alignment, how to know when it was right by the sound it made. When the bike was fixed, Levi sat on the grass, wiping his hands on a rag, and said quietly, June came home yesterday. I heard. How's she doing? Good. Really good. She gained 4 pounds. Her breathing's normal. She laughs now. Like, actually laughs. I forgot what that sounded like. Reaper sat beside him. And you? How are you doing? Levi took a long time to answer. I keep waking up thinking I need to make a delivery, like my brain hasn't caught up yet that I don't have to do that anymore. And then I remember I'm here, and June's safe, and Silas is safe, and I can go back to sleep. But it takes a while. To remember it's real. That'll fade. Takes time, but it fades. How do you know? Reaper pulled the dollar bill from his vest pocket. Still there, still folded carefully, still carried over his heart. Because I've been carrying something for 37 years, and it's only just starting to feel lighter. He handed it to Levi. This is yours. I told you I'd give it back when this was over. This is over. So it's yours now. You get to decide what to do with it. Levi took the dollar, looked at it, ran his thumb over the creases. "What did you do with your dollar? The one from 37 years ago?" "I spent it on food. Kept my brother and me alive for one more day. And then he died anyway, and I spent the next 37 years wishing I'd made a different choice." "But you didn't know what would happen." "No, but you did. You knew your sister was sick. You knew you needed medicine, and you gave your dollar to a stranger anyway because you thought it was the right thing to do. That's the difference between us, kid. I chose survival. You chose generosity. And that's why you saved 3 lives yesterday. Yours, your sister's, and mine." Levi looked up, confused. "How did I save your life?" Reaper's voice was steady despite the crack running through it. "Because I've been trying to repay a debt I didn't know how to settle. Trying to save enough kids to make up for the one I couldn't save. And I was starting to think maybe the debt was too big. Maybe there weren't enough saves in the world to balance losing Marcus. But then you handed me that dollar, and I realized the debt was never about quantity. It was about showing up for the one kid who needed me right now. You taught me that. So yeah, you saved my life." Levi folded the dollar carefully, just like Reaper had, and put it in his own pocket. "I'm keeping it," he said. "Not spending it, just keeping it. To remember." "Remember what?" "That someone believed me, that when I had nothing left, someone cared enough to help, and that someday when I see another kid who needs help, I'm going to be the person who stops." Reaper put a hand on Levi's shoulder, squeezed once. "Your mama taught you well." "She did. But you taught me something too." "What's that?" "That the right people do show up. Eventually. You just have to hold on long enough for them to find you." Reaper stood, looked at this 11-year-old who'd survived 8 months of hell and come out the other side still believing in generosity, still believing in people, still believing that kindness mattered. "You're going to be okay, Levi. I know, because I'm not alone anymore." Reaper walked to his bike, started the engine, pulled on his gloves. He didn't look back as he rode away, because looking back would have broken something in him that was just starting to heal. But he carried that moment, Levi in the driveway, grease on his hands, a dollar in his pocket, a future ahead of him, the way he'd carried Marcus's memory for 37 years. Except this time, the weight felt different. This time, it felt like hope. 6 months later, Levi Cartwright stood in the front office of Calhoun Middle School, holding a piece of paper that had arrived in the mail yesterday. An acceptance letter. The Oklahoma Youth Leadership Academy had reviewed his application, his essay about documentation, evidence, and speaking truth, even when no one wanted to listen, and offered him a full scholarship to their summer program. 3 weeks of workshops on advocacy, systems thinking, and youth empowerment. Classes taught by former prosecutors, social workers, and civil rights attorneys. A program specifically designed for kids who'd seen injustice and wanted to learn how to fight it. The school counselor, Ms. Patricia Winters, the same woman who'd watched Levi walk past her house for months and chosen silence, looked at the letter with tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "You're going to do incredible things." Levi looked at her. This woman who'd failed him when it mattered, who'd since testified against the system that enabled his abuse, who'd started a program at the school to train teachers on recognizing trafficking signs. "Thank you for the recommendation letter," he said. "I know it wasn't easy to write about what happened." Patricia's voice shook. "It was the easiest thing I've ever written, because it was true, every word, and because I owed it to you." Levi left the office with the letter in his backpack, walked out into May sunshine, and found June and Silas waiting at the bike rack. June was healthy now, 51 pounds. Clear lungs. A smile that showed missing teeth and made her look exactly like the 7-year-old she was supposed to be. She wore a backpack covered with butterfly stickers and carried a lunchbox Elena had packed that morning. Silas was in kindergarten, speaking in full sentences now, no longer asking when they could go home because he understood this was home. "Ready?" Levi asked. "Ready," June confirmed. They rode bikes home together. 3 bikes, 3 helmets, 3 kids who were safe, fed, and loved. Elena was on the porch when they arrived, waving. And Reaper was there too, sitting on the steps, visiting for the afternoon like he did every few weeks when he was passing through. Levi showed him the acceptance letter. Reaper read it twice, then looked up with something in his eyes that Levi had learned to recognize as pride. "You earned this, kid. I documented 147 deliveries. I just wrote about it." "You did more than document. You created a record that 22 other kids are using to get justice. The FBI closed 4 more cases this month because of what you wrote down. And 3 senators in Oklahoma are citing your notebook in hearings about foster care reform. You didn't just save yourself. You changed the system." Levi hadn't known that. No one had told him. "Really?" "Really. Badge keeps me updated. Your notebook's being used as a case study in investigative training programs. They're teaching FBI agents what good documentation looks like by showing them what an 11-year-old did with a 50-cent composition book." Levi sat down on the steps beside Reaper. "I just wanted someone to believe me. And now 22 other kids have proof because you made proof. That's what matters." June ran inside to show Elena her spelling test. Silas followed, yelling something about a gold star. Levi and Reaper sat in comfortable silence for a minute. Then Levi asked, "Did you ever find out what happened to Emmett? The kid from Mr. Benson's house?" Reaper had been waiting for this question. "Yeah. Prophet tracked him down. He's in a group home in Tulsa now. Safe placement. Good people running it. FBI's working on getting his charges dropped. Turns out everything he was arrested for was planted evidence. Crenshaw set him up." "Can I write to him?" "Prophet already asked. Emmett said yes. Wants to hear from you. Said you were the one who told him to run that night. Said you saved his life." Levi's eyes got wet. "I didn't save him. I just told him the truth about what Benson was doing. Sometimes that's what saving someone looks like. Telling them the truth when everyone else is lying." 3 years later. Levi was 14 now. Taller. Broader. The limp was less pronounced. Physical therapy and time had helped. He still kept the composition notebook in his desk drawer, but he didn't need to write everything down anymore. His memory still worked the same way, but the compulsion to document every detail had faded. He was in high school now. Freshman year. Taking advanced classes in civics, criminal justice, and investigative journalism. Planning to apply to colleges with strong legal programs. Thinking about becoming a prosecutor or a public defender, or maybe working for an organization that helped trafficking survivors. But today, he was standing in the parking lot of Calhoun Elementary School, watching a scene that reminded him of 8 months he'd tried very hard to forget. A boy. Maybe 10, maybe 11. Standing by the bike rack, looking lost. Wearing clothes that were clean but wrong. Too thin for November weather, shoes that didn't fit right, shoulders hunched in that particular way that meant he was trying to make himself smaller. The boy was crying quietly, trying to hide it. Levi recognized the look. He'd worn it for 8 months. He crossed the parking lot. "Hey," Levi said gently. "You okay?" The boy looked up, startled, wiped his eyes fast. I'm fine. You sure? Because you look like you're not fine. I'm supposed to walk home, but I don't know where home is. They moved me to a new place yesterday, and I forgot the address, and I'm supposed to be there by 4, and if I'm late, they'll— He stopped, swallowed hard. I don't know what they'll do. Levi's chest tightened. What's your name? Ethan. Ethan, I'm Levi. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Are you in foster care? Ethan nodded. Are the people you're living with nice to you? Ethan looked down. Didn't answer. That was answer enough. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to call someone I trust. Her name is Elena. She helps kids like us. She's going to come pick you up, take you somewhere safe, and we're going to figure out what's happening at your foster home. Is that okay? Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. You're going to help me? Really? Really. Because 3 years ago, someone helped me when I had nobody, and I promised myself I'd do the same thing when I met someone who needed it. That's you. So yeah, I'm helping, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Ethan nodded. Levi pulled out his phone, the same phone Reaper had given him 2 years ago, programmed with numbers for Elena, for Stitch, for Badge, for Prophet, for Reaper. A network of people who'd promised to answer any time he called. He dialed Elena. Levi? Her voice was warm, concerned. Everything okay? I've got a situation. Kid at Calhoun Elementary, foster placement, showing signs. I need you to come get him. Elena didn't ask questions, didn't hesitate. I'm 10 minutes away. Stay with him. I will. Levi hung up, sat down on the curb beside Ethan. She's coming. 10 minutes. Until then, you're with me, and you're safe. Okay? Ethan looked at him with eyes that had seen too much, carrying weight no 10-year-old should carry, and whispered, How did you know I needed help? Because I used to stand exactly where you're standing. And nobody stopped. Nobody asked. Nobody cared enough to get involved. So I decided, when I see another kid like me, I'm stopping, always, no matter what. 10 minutes later, Elena arrived. She took one look at Ethan, assessed the situation in the way only someone who'd lived it could, and knelt down. Hi, Ethan. I'm Elena. Levi called because he's worried about you. And when Levi worries, I listen. Do you want to come with me? Just for today. Somewhere safe. No pressure. No strings. Just a place where you can breathe and tell me what's happening in your own time. Ethan looked at Levi. Will you come too? Yeah, I'll come. They drove to Elena's house, the same house where Levi had eaten his first real meal in 8 months, where June had recovered, where Silas had learned it was safe to smile again. And Levi sat with Ethan in the same kitchen where he'd sat 3 years ago, watching him eat a grilled cheese sandwich, seeing himself in every careful bite. Elena called Prophet. Prophet called the FBI contact he'd kept. The same machinery that had saved Levi started moving for Ethan. And Levi understood, sitting there, that this was what his mother had meant. You do right by people, and the right people find you. She'd taught him generosity. Reaper had taught him strength. Elena had taught him safety. And now he was teaching Ethan that rescue was possible, that adults could be trusted, that systems could be fixed, that survival wasn't the end of the story. That night, after Ethan was settled in a guest room, after Prophet confirmed he'd been removed from the dangerous placement, after Elena made sure he knew he could stay as long as he needed, Levi walked outside to find Reaper sitting on the porch. He'd called him, told him what happened. And Reaper had ridden 3 hours to be there. "You did good today, kid," Reaper said. Levi sat beside him. "I didn't do anything special, just called the right people. That's everything. Knowing who to call, knowing when to call, knowing that calling matters. Most people see a kid in trouble and tell themselves it's not their problem. You saw it and made it your problem. That's the difference." Levi pulled the dollar bill from his wallet. Still there, still carried, still folded the same way. "You know what I'm going to do with this someday?" "What?" "I'm going to frame it. Put it on my desk when I have an office. And when someone asks me why I have a dollar bill on my wall, I'm going to tell them. Because a stranger believed me when I had nothing left. And that's the kind of person I'm trying to be. The one who believes the kid nobody else believes." Reaper looked at this 14-year-old who'd survived hell and chosen to turn that survival into purpose, and felt the last piece of Marcus's debt finally settle. "Your mama would be proud," Reaper said quietly. "She taught you to be kind. The world tried to beat that out of you, and you held on to it anyway. That's strength most people never find. She also taught me to write things down, make them real. I've been keeping another notebook." Yeah. Documenting good things this time. Every time someone helps someone else. Every time a kid gets saved. Every time the system works the way it's supposed to. Because I want to remember, it's not all bad. There are people like you. People like Elena. People like Badge and Prophet and Stitch. People who show up. Reaper stood, clapped a hand on Levi's shoulder. "Keep writing it down, kid. The world needs that record, too." He walked to his bike, started the engine, looked back one last time at the house where 3 kids had learned to be safe again, where a 4th was learning tonight, where Elena was building a network of healing one child at a time. And Reaper understood. This was the full circle. 37 years ago, he couldn't save Marcus. 3 years ago, Levi saved himself. Today, Levi saved Ethan. And somewhere in that progression, between loss and redemption and paying it forward, the debt had been repaid, not erased, never erased, but transformed into something that looked a lot like hope. 2 months later, Reaper was cleaning out his saddlebags after a long ride when he found an envelope. No postage, hand-delivered, probably slipped in while his bike was parked at a rest stop. Inside was a letter and a photograph. The letter was from Levi. "Reaper, I'm writing this instead of calling because I wanted you to have something you could keep. The FBI closed the last case yesterday. All 23 kids from Harlan's network have been found. 17 are in safe placements now. 4 are adults getting counseling and legal help. 2 didn't survive. But 21 out of 23 made it. Because you answered when I asked. Agent Torres told me the network ran for 6 years because nobody had proof. But once they had my notebook, they could connect everything. She said I did in 8 months what trained investigators couldn't do in 6 years. I don't know if that's true, but I know this. You taught me that documentation matters, that truth matters, that asking for help matters. I'm sending you a picture. It's from yesterday. The Oklahoma Youth Leadership Academy graduation. That's me in the middle. June and Silas on either side. Elena and Stitch behind us. And that's Ethan on the left, the kid I told you about. He's doing better. He's safe now. He's going to be okay. I wanted you to see what you started, because 3 years ago, you could have taken my dollar, fixed your bike, and ridden away. Most people would have. But you stayed. You asked questions. You believed me. And because of that, 23 kids have justice, and 1 kid has a future. I'm keeping the dollar. But I'm sending you something else. A copy of my new notebook. The good one. The one where I document every time someone does the right thing. You're on page 1. Thank you for answering when I asked. Thank you for showing me that the right people do show up. Thank you for teaching me that generosity isn't weakness. Your brother, Levi Reaper, looked at the photograph. 5 kids, smiling, healthy, safe, alive. He'd carried Marcus's death for 37 years. And in one moment on a frozen highway, an 11-year-old with a dollar bill had shown him that the debt wasn't about what he'd lost. It was about what he could still save. He folded the letter carefully, put it in his vest pocket where he'd once carried a memorial patch. And he understood. The patch had been about death. The letter was about life. Both mattered. Both would stay with him. But only one would define what came next. He pulled out his phone, texted Levi. Proud of you, kid. Keep writing it down. Keep showing up. The world needs more people like you. The response came within seconds. The world needs more people like you, too. See you next month? Reaper smiled, typed, count on it. He put the phone away, started his bike, pulled onto the highway, and for the first time in 37 years, the road ahead felt lighter than the road behind. This story isn't really about motorcycles or patches or a dollar bill that changed everything. It's about visibility. For 8 months, Levi Cartwright was invisible. He walked past houses every day, past businesses, past people who saw him limping, saw him exhausted, saw him carrying weight no child should carry. Some people noticed. Some worried. Some even felt bad about it. But only one person acted. And that action, stopping when everyone else walked past, asking questions when everyone else stayed quiet, believing a child when everyone else chose doubt, saved 3 lives and exposed a network that had operated for 6 years. Here's what that means for you, wherever you're watching this. You don't need 203 motorcycles to change someone's story. You don't need a leather vest or a tragic past or specialized training. You need to pay attention. You need to care enough to get involved. You need to believe people when they tell you something's wrong. There are Levis everywhere, in your town, in your neighborhood. At your workplace, your school, the grocery store parking lot. Kids who are trying desperately to survive while systems fail them. Kids who are screaming for help in ways that don't look like screaming. Maybe it's a child who flinches when an adult moves too quickly. Maybe it's a coworker who's always first to arrive and last to leave because they don't want to go home. Maybe it's a neighbor who's lost dramatic weight and won't make eye contact anymore. The signs are there. The question is, are you looking? Levi documented 147 deliveries before someone finally read his notebook. How many people saw that notebook and ignored it? How many adults dismissed him as a troubled kid instead of listening? Reaper was the first person who stopped long enough to ask the right questions. You could be someone's first person, or their 148th, or anywhere in between. If you see something wrong, say something. If a child tells you they're scared, believe them. If someone's story doesn't add up, ask questions. If you know in your gut that something's not right, trust that instinct. Yes, you might be wrong. You might embarrass yourself. You might make things awkward. But you might save a life. And 37 years from now, you won't be carrying the weight of the child you didn't help. You'll be carrying the memory of the one you did. That's a weight worth holding. If this story moved you, subscribe to Gentle Biker Official and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below and tell me, have you ever been someone's reaper? Have you ever needed one? What did it teach you? And if you know someone who's invisible right now, who's struggling and scared and trying to survive alone. Share this video. Let them know that rescue is possible, that people care, that the right person showing up at the right time can change everything. Because Levi's story isn't rare. It's just rarely told. More stories of courage, justice, and people who refuse to look away coming soon. Until then, pay attention. Ask questions. Believe people. And be someone's reason to hope. 3 years ago, on a frozen highway outside Calhoun, Oklahoma, an 11-year-old boy handed a stranger his last dollar for bus fare home. Today, that boy is helping other children find their way home too. And the stranger who stopped is still riding, still answering, still proving that sometimes the scariest-looking person on the road is exactly who you need when the world stops caring.